Dear students, today it is my pleasure to introduce you our instructor, Vishu Aggarwal. Hello, Vishu.
Hello, hi.
Vishu will be leading our course for game development with Unity. And today you will be able to learn more about his experience and more details about the Unity certification course. Vishu, tell our students more about yourself, your experience, and how many years have been working in IT industry.
So I'll just do my screen share as well, right? To make you familiar with my profile. So hi everyone, my name is Vishu Aggarwal and I'm a corporate trainer from last 12 years. So I basically do corporate trainings in various fields, especially into game development, AR and VR development, which is also related to the game development nowadays, right? And I'm a person who comes from a background of 3D animation, graphic designing, web designing, and C# development, right? So throughout my career of 12 years, I've trained multiple companies, multiple students from various industries onto game development and game design. As an instructor, I'm basically a certified instructor by Unity 3D, by Unity, and a certified 3D artist by Unity. So these are the professional level of certifications I have. Besides this, just not Unity, I'm also a certified instructor by Adobe. So just a Adobe certified instructor and a design master, webmaster, and a video master. So if you have 2D2 knowledge in the background, it really helps you in game design and development. Also an Adobe Community Professional by Adobe Systems, and an Apple certified trainer for Final Cut Pro. So if you want to bring some videos in your games, that's where Final Cut Pro comes in place, and you can edit your videos before you use them in your games. So these are some of the clients I have trained over the 12 years. This is just few of them on AR and VR, game development, and into the UI development of games. So these are few of them we have, right? So that's a brief introduction about myself as a trainer.
Okay, thank you. This is an impressive background with a lot of global companies.
I've done trainings for both on-site, online, offline,
yes,
in various modes from last 12 years.
According to your personal observations, what is the demand for such professionals? I talk for game development.
Okay, so we'll talk about that also now. So for that, I have just made a small presentation to give you an introduction of what game development is, where the industry is going, and what options you have as a game developer or a designer when you start your career in game designing. So for that, I'll just be taking you through one PPT over here, which I call it as Introduction to Game Development, right? So let's first understand, why should you learn game development, right? So if we talk about the market share of the game, right? And if you compare with a movie, we call it as, Hollywood movies, right? And the Dark Knight or the Batman movie basically, earned $239 million in the first week of revenue. Whereas if you see a game next to it, which is Grand Theft Auto 4, which is a very popular game, a lot of you as childhood might have played that game, earned $5 million in the first week of its revenue. So the game development market is much more bigger in size, and it is one of the biggest industry in the world. It's, even if you combine Hollywood, if you combine other entertainment sources, it's even bigger than that in the market. So, and game does not vanish. So you keep playing games, developers keep adding new features to the game, new gameplays to the games, and they keep selling it. So it's just not just a one-time watch or one-time play you have. Games keep evolving themselves and they are interactive in nature. So you just don't sit and watch and enjoy a movie like you enjoy a movie in theaters, but game is something you can play anytime, anywhere, if you have the right hardware. And if you talk about the overall industry of the game development, this is a pretty old data, but if you see, the video game industry is the biggest. If you talk about in Asia, it was 11.5 billion. In Europe, it was 11.4 billion, and in US, it was 10.7 billion in dollars, right? And it is the right time to learn the games. So the games comes in various genres, basically. You have action games, you have shooting games, you have sports games, you have role-playing games, fighting games, racing games. So the games can be made for anyone, right? Maybe you have someone, a kid at your home, they also like to play games. Now the learnings have become game based. A lot of companies now investing into learning and development via games, right? There are a lot of companies coming out, which says we have gamification in our learning. So while you're learning something, you're kind of playing a game. You're competing with someone. So game industry have a huge market going ahead. Just not in terms of has entertainment, it is also coming into various other industries, right? And Unity 3D is one of the softwares, which is one of the most popular softwares for the game development as a game engine. And if we talk about the right time for this mixed reality, so what is mixed reality? What I mean by MR here, mixed reality is about bringing AR and VR to games, right? You must have heard about virtual reality, right? You feel like you are in the game, right? You are playing the game, you are the player in the game. And there are even games coming in AR mode like Pokemon Go, which was very popular between 2018, around 2018, right? When it came out, and it basically just vanished any other game market because it was a new concept in the industry. Now, why this game development has been increasing over the years? Because there is more money is available for the content creators. If you see, the crowdfunding is much more possible. Everyone is connected to each other, so they can invest more. But what makes games more viable now is the bandwidth. The internet is much cheaper. You get very good speeds. You can play games online together with your friends. And the cost per megabyte has been decreasing over the years. And that what again makes the game development more popular as a career and the industry. And if we talk about other stuff here, like for example, computing devices, even your mobile phones nowadays have very good computing power. So you can simply use a mobile phone to play a game. And I think we all know Battlefield, PUBG, right? Or games like Free Fire, right? Are one of the most popular games in the mobile smartphone gaming because they let you connect with multiple people online simultaneously, and you can enjoy a multiplayer game with just your mobile phone. So, and there's more content being created because companies find more revenue generation in the game development. They create the game once, they can sell products through games, they can sell ads on their gaming, right? So when you play PUBG, right, or when you play games like Free Fire, so those games are not asking money from you directly, right? They don't tell, okay, you need to play this game, you need to pay this. No, they are basically making money through advertisements they have, or through selling some accessories of game within the gameplay, right? And many of you must have spent money to purchase a special gun or a special equipment in a game, right? So the more content is created, people have more access to internet, they have the smartphones, and they have much more money to spend now. So the game industry has been seeing a huge revamp in the whole industry. Now, if we talk about the game development process. What does the game development process involve? This is a very basic process. Of course, if you go to a bigger company, you might have a different steps of what they follow. But if you talk about the very basic game development process, you first discuss and validate. Like when you want to even create a small story movie making or something, you basically discuss with people, right? So do a basic discussion with people. And then you might do a requirement and concept finalization of the game. Then you create a game design prototype and finalize it. So this game design and prototype can be created in a 3D software or in Unity 3D itself. You can create a basic prototype of that. So you create game assets. So for gaming, you need 3D characters, you need cars, you might need maybe a plane in your game, right? You might need a gun in your game. Depending on your requirement, you will have to create those assets in the game. And then you do the coding. So games are incomplete without coding, right? That's why we call it as game developer, because just by designing, you can't create a game. You need to be a developer for creating games, because games are interactive in nature, right? And for that interaction, you need to do some kind of a coding in the software. Now, most of the game engines also offers you visual scripting options. You can also do a visual scripting if needed. You can do that, or you can write your codes in C#. If you're using Unity, if you're using Unreal, maybe then you can use C++. So you can basically do the coding. Then do a level design of game, how many levels will be there in the game, and how the user will progress in the game, what will be challenges in the game. You generally, implement those things in the game. And then you do a basic testing of your game, and you finally submit your game to the particular stores to run the games in it. Now, game development looks very fantasy kind of, we want to create a game, but usually it might not be a one-person job. I don't say that one person cannot create a game. You can create a game, right? But it requires generally a team of people to create a game. So if you look at the very basic process, but the very basic team or very basic skills you need for the game development, what do you need? So if you need a development team, what you should know, or if you want to be a game developer, what you should know, right? In a game development team. So you should know some kind of designing, right? Where you can create graphics for your game. You should be an artist, who can design characters for your game. You maybe need a programmer who can program it. And of course, you need a sound engineer, because sound is a very important aspect of any game. So even if you watch a movie, you know that sound is important, right? If you don't hear that sound, you go to theater, especially because just not because it has a bigger screen, because it also has a great sound effect to it. So this is the very basic structure you need as a game developer, right? And if you talk about each category, there are some kind of skill sets you need in each category. So for the developing skills, for the programming skills, you should know some kind of programming skills, like maybe C++, C#, JavaScript, Python, anything you can know, right? And you should have some knowledge of graphics. Now, this is not compulsory, I'm saying, right? But if you want to go to the higher stage of development, you should know how to code graphics also, like OpenGL and XNA technology. And you should be a problem solver, because development is more about problem solving. How do you solve problems in coding to create a certain feature in your game? And if we talk about the engines in the game, you should know some kind of a gaming engine. And what we're going to focus on this course is the Unity 3D. One of the most popular platforms, one of the most friendly platforms available in the industry for game development, right? As if you need to be a designer, you should of course have some kind of creativity to it. You should know practically how the designs are implemented. And you could be a 2D artist for creating games who generally works on Adobe softwares. And you should know Photoshop, Illustrator for creating graphics, or you should be a 3D artist with the animations who majorly work on Autodesk softwares, because Autodesk is a leader in the industry for creating 3D softwares. You must have heard about Autodesk Maya, 3ds Max, right? So these are the two popular platforms by Autodesk for creating the 3D models and 3D graphics over here, right? And you should know some kind of an animation, because when your character walks, right, he jumps or he attacks an enemy. So that is all animation. That is built as animation. So you need to know some kind of animation when you work with it. So this is just an overview of the development and the design skills. Now, don't worry about it, right? If you don't know about these things, because the course we talk about has the Unity Certified Associate for game development. It covers both the perspectives. It does not teach you how to use Maya 3ds Max, but it teaches you, if you already have a 3D character in Maya or in 3ds Max, how do you bring it to Unity, and how do you add life to it to make it playable in your game, right? So that's what we teach you in the game development course of Unity Associate with the certification, right? Which you'll get from the Unity if you, I'm pretty much sure you will pass the exam if you do this training seriously and pay attention to it. So you want to learn everything about it, how the design stuff works and how the development stuff works in Unity, and how you put them together to make a game out of it, right? I have much more in this PPT, but I will not talk about it in more detail because we will be keeping that for this for the course. But now I will show you what kind of games you will be creating by the end of this training, right? One of the most popular game is the zombie toys. So I have Unity open here, and I'll go back to the Unity for a minute. So this is one of the games over here, right? And this is just a this game which I will be playing. This is a Unity interface which you see right now, and it's currently not in a play mode. So that's why it looks very normal. You can also move around. You can see this is some 3D objects are there. There's a car lying here. Very basic scene. Very basic scene. Right, kind of a room which also has a player. If I zoom in, you will be able to see our player here. That's our player. That's the enemy. That's the enemy we have over here, right? And this game, if I play it, see how it looks. If I click on play, so don't worry about this red thing which you see over here. This red thing means that we are going to play the game now, and we are entering into the play mode. You can see I can select a character to start playing with it. I have two characters. So I basically be using this character for starting my game, and you can see how the camera moves around and my game now starts. I can simply go around here like this by my cursor. I can also move around, and you can see the enemies are coming behind me, and I need to be careful by them. Okay, so let's get saved. And I want to kill them now. There are too many of them. Oops. So it's getting hard for me to survive. So I will simply put some kind of a power to kill them, but I died. So currently I have set this difficulty of level of this game as high, right, over here. And you can see once the game over, the game automatically restarts. This time I will play with this character. So I will click on this character. I will use this character as the gameplay. You can move around again. Let's wait for the enemies to come up. Yeah, let me kill the enemy. I can kill the enemies. You can see over here. So again, my game over is getting because I'm not really shooting at the right place right now, right? So this kind of a game you can create. Now it looks it looks like a very simple game, but there are a lot of components which are going together here when we run this game, right? So you can see this is a 3D character. If I off it, the gameplay over here. for a second. Let me just move this off, go up. And if I go to this game, you can see this is a kind of a 3D character. 3D character, very basic 3D character. But this 3D character which you see is not created in Unity. It is created in a 3D software like 3ds Max or Maya. So this is created in Maya actually, and we import and we bring it into the Unity. So this character which you see basically has been modeled in a 3D software and textured using Photoshop, right? So we also use 2D softwares for this texturing, which means, what will be the color of this character, how his clothes will be looking. So we also design that in the Photoshop. Remember, in this course, we'll not be teaching you Photoshop, will not be teaching you Maya. We just teach you how to bring the 3D assets into Unity from those softwares and how it works. And your certification is all about Unity. It's not about other softwares. But you get to know the complete pipeline of the game development. And you can see this particular character of the game has multiple components. We call this as components, right? So this a transform animator is what animates this character. We have a rigid body, which makes it collidable with the enemies. We have a physical collider, which basically gets attached to the rigid body to make it collidable with the enemies. Then we have some scripts here. You can see a player input script, which lets player move right and left, up and down, wherever you want to move it. And you also have the player health. So when the enemies get attack the player, it loses its health. So you have the player health. Then you have the player attack script here and the player movement script here. So these are all C# scripts, which we'll be writing in this game and going to see how this works. And we also have the audio source, which basically plays some audio. You might not be able to hear this audio right now during this recording, but when you will actually be working on this game, you will be able to even hear the audio, because when I was playing the game, my audio was set to mute, so it does not interfere with my voice over here. So it also has the audio to it and some other skills to it. And this is just one component. There are many other components in this game which you have, and we call them as game objects over here. So this is my main scene which I have, and you can see we have a camera which basically renders our camera view. We have the complete environment, we have the floor. At the bottom for collisions, we have some lighting setup. Lighting is very important. So if you don't have any lights, you will not see any kind of a 3D dimension feel to it. No shadows, nothing. So you also have the lighting options here. And there are many other game objects we have, which have different several game objects to it. For example, if I go to the attacks, go to lighting attacks, you can see when I click over here on this, if I play, you can see there's a kind of a burst effect happening here, right? This is particle systems in games, which we will learn to create in Unity. When I restart, you can see it's busting out here. So there are various different components which come together to develop a game, and you're going to learn about those components. And that's what the Adobe Certified Associate talks about here in the learning outcomes and the game objectives here, right? So if you look at the course contents here, it starts from very scratch. Even if you don't have any experience with Unity, we explain you each and everything how it works in Unity, right? So from very starting level, like even exploring the user interface of Unity, using the game objects and assets, managing projects and assets in Unity, preparing your assets for implementation, for example, how to create materials, how to create textures within Unity, and how to import your models, and then apply those textures to them. And we also talk about assembling the game level, like creating colliders, rigid bodies, and changing their hierarchies to work together. Talk about lighting in games. How do you put lights in the game? We talk about light baking process, very, very important in gaming. This is important for optimization purpose, because not everyone has a very good system, right? And you want your game to be playable with the maximum audience out there. So we talk about baking of lights also in this course. We talk about animating the game objects within Unity, bringing animations into game. So if you have done an animation in the 3D software, how do you bring it and import in Unity, and how do you work with it? Then we talk about the scripting process, the basic scripting process in Unity. We also talk about the implementation of navigation and pathfinding using the Unity nav mesh agents, right? It's a special kind of a game object in Unity, which basically has some kind of a built-in artificial intelligence. Those enemies which you were saying, where they were automatically coming closer to the player. So it was basically using the name mesh technology for that. So then we talk about building the players and enemies, building the enemies, complete controls of it, creating working with particle system. So those power effects, those burst effects basically are created with particle system. We also talk about audio. How do you have audios in games? How do you build your camera so you can move around with the camera? How do you design the user interface? So what is a user interface? When I was playing this game over here, you saw that there was a score, game over, there was a health icon coming next to the player. Those are all known as UI components. So you can say select a character, this heart icon, this power icon, this is known as a UI, or the user interface of the game. Over here. So that's the user interface of the game. Then we talk about building and deploying the game. So how do you build the game for the desktop and it can be published? So you don't have to have Unity. The users don't have Unity, right? So how can you publish your games to a build game? And how do you prepare the game for the mobile development? We will talk about that. So there are total 20 topics, which starts from very basic level, goes to intermediate and the advanced level, which covers almost everything about Unity in this certification, right?
Thank you, Vishu, for this very nice demonstration. Can you tell us more about the exam? How is organized? What kind of questions? What is the process?
Okay, so if you look at this PDF here, right, it talks about the exam objectives also, right? You can, that's a very good question you've asked. So the questions, there are total 100 questions go to C, right? Over 12 topic areas. They are specified topics. There are 20. This is 20 TOC topics, remember, right? But there are various subtopics to it, which is known as 16 topics areas, which Unity call it as. So it will totally be 100 questions in your exam. They will be multiple choice, hotspots, drag and drop, match the following, right? So you will have those kind of questions. For example, they might ask you, right? I'm just giving you a sample question basically, right? So what is the current version of Unity? For example, I'm saying, so they might give you 4 options. It becomes an MCQ. In the hotspot, they might ask you, okay, they might give you a screenshot of this thing. And they might ask you, okay, what this icon means, or what this icon does, right? So this one is hotspot. They might also ask you for match the following question. So that's the format of the exam you have. And the questions can be from anywhere, right? I will take you through in the training. I will take you through some of the questions. Okay, this is something they can ask you, right? But of course, I can't even tell you, okay, this question will come for sure in the exam, because to you, it's showing you 100 questions, but in the background, they might have 500, 600 questions, which they randomly display to every student, right? So while all the students are giving the same exam, they might not get the same question. They might get a different question to be asked, right? So, but my job is to train you in Unity and also make you comfortable for the exam over here, right? So that's what the associate level exam does. It's not too difficult, but yes, it requires some kind of efforts from your end also, right? Just watching me doing something is not going to work. You will have to practice with me. You will have to do some extra studies, the theory materials, which I will give you during the training. You will have to go through them. I will give you some sample questions in the training, which you will have to do it to actually get prepared for this associate exam.
Okay. Can you tell us some story from your career when you are in beginning? How learning influence your development?
Okay, so I tell you about my personal life. I was never been a developer in the starting. I was more kind of a designer, right? And approximately about 15 years back, when I finished my designing and I did my course, I was very fascinated about games because I used to play a lot of games, right? But I didn't knew the development side generally of it. But the game is so interesting, even if you're not a programmer, right? You can actually learn programming very easily while developing games because it's interesting, you know. Okay, you say, okay, I need to develop this. So basically, you code something and you can create your own stuff. That's the most fantastic, you know, fascinating thing about Unity over here. So you can create whatever you like, whatever functionality you like by simply writing some lines of codes over here. And it's not too difficult, remember that, right? You just need to understand the pipeline of how everything works together. And by the end of this course, you can even create your own game. Just a single person, like even if you're a single student, you can create your own game. Not a big scale game. You can even create a small game of your own. You can even publish to the App Store, Google Play Store, Steam, whatever you like. Right.
Thank you. And what would you advise our students after finishing this course? What kind of job positions would be suitable for them?
So I think it really depends where your career takes an interest after doing this course, right? Some of you might be more inclined towards designing. Some of you might be inclined towards more kind of development side. So you can choose which side you would like to go with, right? And what your career interests you more, and you can get a job in that. I've trained a lot of students, you know, who after this course they join as an intern in companies, into the game development companies like Sony, Microsoft, Rockstar, Ubisoft. There are many other companies available out there in the market. I'm just talking about the international companies here, EA Games. There are many companies basically who hires, especially the Unity certified associate people, uh, for as interns or on the even on the job role if you have really a good portfolio. So the my advice would be, once this course finishes up, when you do this training, when it's ended, that's where your challenge starts, not when the training starts, right? So after finishing of training, that's where your job starts. You will have to develop your strong portfolio, develop games, explore more about Unity. It's a big software, right? Even after using from like 12 to like 15 years, I'm still learning it because technology is changing so fast. So you have to continue your learning, your practice in the software, and showcase your work. That's the most important thing. You have platforms like LinkedIn, you have platforms like Behance, where you should showcase your work, right? So people can know about you, right? Companies can know about you.
Thank you very much, Vishu, for sharing your story, talking about the game development. I hope that this interview will help our students to have a better decision why to choose a game development career. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Hope to see you everyone. Bye bye.